Keep up to date with everything this year on Twitter, SoundCloud, YouTube and WordPress.
After a 4-year absence on the calendar, we are back for the European Grand Prix again. We are at the Baku City Circuit in Azerbaijan for the 2016 European Grand Prix. And welcome to the Friday review for Diary of a Mercedes Fan on YouTube. So let's get down to business and start with FP1, shall we? Always an interesting session when the drivers go to a new circuit, and on first glance I absolutely love the Baku City Circuit. It's a breath of fresh air, it's something different. Over the hour and a half session you did have a lot of people commenting that it did seem a bit like a large Formula E track, and I can see where they're coming from there, but there's a lot of character to this track. It's a street circuit, it's a very punishing circuit, and there's a lot of chances to make errors. And obviously there were a lot of errors in the first practice session because of simply a new track, new tyres, getting used to a new surface, not a lot of grip, and not a lot of space to do what you have to do. So if you have an error, there's not a lot of runoff, and it is quite punishing. But go through the times. Obviously it was going to be crucial, I think, to see. Usually in FP1 the times aren't really representative, but I think especially with going to a new track, you always have to take every time as it comes. So Lewis Hamilton topped the session on a 1:46.435, 23 laps in that session. Rosberg was a little bit more busier with 32 laps on the board. Second place on a 1:46.812. Valtteri Bottas, a good showing for Williams, in third place on a 1:47.096, 34 laps for him. Alonso in the McLaren, very good showing for him as well, really high up and quite impressive in that session. 1:47.989, 21 laps on the board. Vettel in fifth on a 1:48.627. Difficult session for them, considering that they're 2 seconds off the Mercedes pace. Perez in the Force India doing quite well in sixth place on a 1:48.922, 17 laps on the board. Button capping off what was a decent session for McLaren, 1:49.019, 21 laps down on the board. Eighth place was Felipe Massa in the Williams on a 1:49.125. Sainz ninth on a 1:49.267. And also 10th place was Hulkenberg on a 1:49.301. So obviously you've got a new track, a new circuit, no data for a team. Setup compromise as well, because there's long straights and there are turns where you do need downforce. So there's a big compromise. That do you sacrifice downforce in the middle sector for long straight speed on the final sector, the main straight, and through maybe turn 2 and turn 3 as well. So it's a bit of a compromise. Mercedes came to this Grand Prix with a Baku specific rear wing, so obviously not carrying a lot of downforce, and I think that's done actually quite well for them so far, especially in FP1. And so as the session started, Hamilton bettered Rosberg by 0.3 of a second, with Bottas another 0.3 back at early doors, and that was quite interesting to see, because you could see that the Mercedes powered cars was starting to get right up to speed and right at home. Difficult session for Red Bull and Ferrari. definitely with their engine not being suited to the long straight. You've got about 20 to 25 seconds of full throttle, and I think, as you can see, the Mercedes cars definitely had no problems getting used to that length of time. They've got a lot of grunt, they've got a lot of power, so for the Mercedes, definitely very easy to tackle that. But early doors, it was Rosberg who recorded the tentative 1 minute 57.306 on the soft compound tyre. Then he did improve on his second lap to a 153. Then he worked that down to a 150 before Hamilton came in with a 149.17. So early doors, the Mercedes were definitely very quick in FP1. Then we got it down to a 146.812 with Rosberg. Apologies, it looks like someone is reversing over a lorry outside, but there's nothing I can really do about that, so I will continue. So yeah, and then Hamilton came in with a 146.489 and then improved that to a 146.435. So you can see that the pace, not getting no problems in getting the times down. Bottas improved as well on the soft tyres to a 147.096. So that was pretty good. Then the session at the end was red flagged 20 minutes from the end when Ricciardo made a mistake in turn 15, becoming the first driver to damage his car and have a serious, not really a serious accident, but it left Red Bull with a lot of work to do between FP1 and FP2. A lot of people going off. Turn 15 is going to be one of those circuits, one of the on the circuit where one of the corners on the circuit where you're going to have a little bit of an issue. If you make a mistake, if you run wide, it's an unforgiving turn. You know, you can just literally go off, understeer, and you'll be in the barrier. And the significant damage, as we saw to Ricciardo's car, was meant the session could be red flagged. And that's quite interesting for the race as well, because there's a lot of corners on this circuit where if someone runs wide, has a massive accident, we could be seeing a safety car or even a red flag. And I wouldn't be surprised over the weekend if we do get a race stoppage of some sort, whether it's a red flag or even so. But yeah, that's quite important. There's a very few narrow sections, and we've got this lovely little section near the castle in the middle of the circuit where it's really tight. You go uphill, and then you've got a few sections where you've got to blind as well. When you go in, you go left, right, and then left again, and then it's blind going down. So it's a nice, fast-flowing track, and definitely does going to really help the cars with Mercedes engines. But it was a good morning for McLaren. Fourth on a 147.989, so very good for them. But if we take it back to a Mercedes perspective, and it does look genuinely like we do have a strong package. First FP1, obviously very good. Can't really complain when you've got FP1 on the board and you've got the drivers on 146s, good times, especially considering that the Ferrari was on a 148, the Red Bull was on who was the fastest Red Bull guy, was on a 149, and Verstappen was on the 150s in FP1. So strong times for Mercedes, especially for an FP1 session. And going into FP2, it was all going to be about whether Mercedes would increase their advantage, whether the Mercedes engine drivers would increase their advantage, and will Red Bull and Ferrari improve going into the second practice session at the Baku City Circuit. And so FP2, second session of the day, and you definitely got a more of a sense of what it was going to be like in the field, how the field was going to go, and we got a very telling session from FP2. You couldn't really wouldn't really be surprised to see that the first top 5 drivers in the standings were Mercedes-powered cars. Just run through the times. Lewis Hamilton took a clean sweep of practice, fastest in practice on a 1:44.223. Rosberg was second on a 1:44.913. Perez for Force India, very good pace on a 1:45.336. Bottas was fourth on a 1:45.764, and Hülkenberg was fifth on a 1:45.920. So what can we gather from this session? It definitely does look at the moment that Red Bull and Ferrari are struggling, because the highest place Red Bull was 7th on a 1:46.068. Vettel was on a 1:46.219. Ricciardo was on a 1:46.293, and that was down in 10th place. So you definitely, at the moment, it does look like the field is promoting, is definitely benefiting the Mercedes powered cars. As you can see, Force India and Williams are up there, and I have to say at the moment it's looking like it's Mercedes, Force India and Williams in the form guide as well for this weekend. I wouldn't expect Williams to be fighting for a podium on the basis of this, and Force India to be fighting for the top 5. I mean, race pace as well. That's something that I want to get onto just quickly before we talk about the FP2 session as a whole. The long runs, and to back this up as well, the long runs were very good from Mercedes, Force India and Williams as well. The wrong run pace for Mercedes was in the 1:47s to the 1:48s, which I'm guessing not really a surprise. Lewis Hamilton was able to do a 1:47 time just on his last lap. Williams were in the 1:49s for this session, which is pretty good considering that no one's really going as high as the 1:48s. Only Mercedes are really going into that. So 1:49 for Williams, and that's consistent 1:49s, along with the Force Indias as well, who are doing 1:49s all the way through the session on long runs on the super soft tyre. Where that problem lies is that Red Bull were in the 150s to the 151s. Now they were high 150s, low 151s, along with the Ferraris as well. Vettel did do one lap in the 149s, but more consistently into the 150s. So on the basis of this, it does look on long run pace that Mercedes, Williams and Force India are the ones to look for this weekend. Williams ahead of Force India in that they had a little bit stronger long run than the Force Indias, but it definitely is a fight for the podium at the moment. At the moment, I should add, because it's only Friday, and I have to see what happens in FP3. But even for qualifying, you would not bet the front 3 rows being dominated probably by Mercedes, Williams and Force India. That's just looking at it from an FP2 standpoint. In this session, you did have the super soft, the soft tyre and the medium tyre being used. Lewis Hamilton used the soft and super soft tyres. Rosberg used the medium and super soft tyre. Sergio Perez was on the soft and super soft, and Bottas was on the medium and super soft, and Hülkenberg in the Force India was on the soft and super soft. So long run pace was very good, and it does look like that for the race tyre, it looks like the medium could be the okay race tyre to go from. If you don't qualify quite well and you want to run long, you can definitely use the medium. But I'd assume for the top guys, like at the moment Mercedes, Force India and Williams, I'm assuming that they'll go super soft and then bang on a set of softs and go to the end. This race is looking like a 1 to 2 stop, depending on how good your car is in terms of pace. I'd expect the Mercedes to be doing a 1 stop. Maybe the Force India and Williams to be doing a 1 stop. I would expect Perez to be doing a 1 stop because he loves his 1 stop races, and I'm sure that they can eke out the tyres that long. Where is Ferrari and Red Bull? They looked, on the basis of this, like they are struggling for this weekend, and it's just generally because of the long straights. As you saw in this session here, the top 5 cars are Mercedes powered, and the guy after Hulkenberg was Sainz on a 146.0. Verstappen in the Red Bull was 7th place on a 146.068, and Vettel was on a 146.2, and that's the highest place Ferrari in 8th place. Listening to the interviews after FP2, Daniel Ricciardo wasn't particularly. They weren't sandbagging. Red Bull weren't sandbagging, and Ferrari looked like they've had a difficult day. And I'm not sure whether this is something which can be changed overnight. Mercedes came with a Baku-specific rear wing, so they've compromised on downforce for straight line speed, and at the moment you have to say that is looking like an absolute treat for Mercedes, looking like an absolute treat for Williams, who have got a very good car in a straight line. Where Ferrari have been strong and Red Bull have been strong is sometimes in the medium to slow speed corners, and the downforce and the engine power that you can get from that, especially at Canada and the likes of Monaco. They've been strong there, but where you don't have that here is that there's a lot of long straights, and especially when you come out of turn 16 and you're all the way down the main straight, all the way down to turn 1. That's about 20 something seconds of full throttle, and it's just that Mercedes powered engine that can get that grunt down all the way down the straight and carry that, and the Red Bulls and the Ferraris can't do that, and you can see that they're suffering, because at the moment they're 2 seconds slower than the Mercedes, and one and a bit seconds slower than the Force India and the Williams. So now taking it to a Mercedes perspective between Hamilton and Rosberg, and if we go back to FP1, Hamilton was faster, and then going into FP2 as well, Rosberg had a problem at the end of the session where he had to stop. No confirmation as to yet from Mercedes what that is, but in FP3 and on the Saturday review I will let you know what that was. So it's really looking so far like we've got this weekend wrapped up, Mercedes. Barring any reliability problems, barring any crashes or anything, we've got this weekend wrapped up on the basis of this, because only drivers and only team into the 144s, the long runs are only on Hamilton. Really, we could only get a representative of Hamilton on the long run, but still strong long runs on the 147s to 148s. So I'm assuming for the win and for the podium, if everything goes well, it should be Hamilton and Rosberg fighting for themselves on the top 2. But it's just not as simple as that, because the track's characteristics, you could simply lead out of 1 and 2, and then into 3 you could lock up, go down the escape road, and if you make a mistake through any of the runoffs on this track, especially in the first and second sector, you could be leading the race, make a mistake, go down the escape road, and you could be 15th or even last by the time you come out of it. And this is a very, very punishing circuit, so it's going to be a long race, and it's about not making a mistake, because even the Mercedes can make a mistake, go down the escape road, and the gap that you had is gone. The lead that you've had is gone. And if a safety car comes out, which, boy, if it comes out, that changes everything. Your race is turned on an instant. It's turned on an instant, and it's all over the place. So, yeah, from a Friday perspective, very strong for Mercedes. Very strong for Mercedes-powered cars as well. Perez, Bottas, Hulkenberg. Massa wasn't there, we had a bit of a problem. But Force India and Williams, along with Mercedes, looking strong. Red Bull and Ferrari not looking that strong. Toro Rosso and McLaren are looking there or thereabouts for a top 10. So it's going to be quite interesting to see tomorrow on Saturday FP3 and qualifying who locks out the front row. Obviously that's probably likely going to be Mercedes. The second and third row as well will be interesting, because I think if you can stay top 6 early doors, and you've got the pace to do so, you can just pull away from the field, get a gap, and you can then negotiate your race from there. What's going to be interesting is coming out of pit stops, who gets weeding yourself back into traffic, trying to overtake. If you've got a faster powered car, DRS and engine power is going to be absolutely crucial coming out of turn 16. If you get a great run, you've got the slipstream, you've got a great chance, especially if you're a Mercedes powered car. And the W07's had some problems overtaking in traffic, but I don't envisage this time around at Azerbaijan with a 20-second long full throttle straight that they're going to have any problems overtaking. But I'm going to leave it here for the Friday review. A strong day for Mercedes powered cars. Mercedes, Force India and Williams looking in the ballpark at the moment like they are the teams that will be looking to get the greatest success from the European Grand Prix. Mercedes, a little bit of breathing space to their rivals. Red Bull and Ferrari have got some work to do, and I just don't think this could actually be just a poor weekend for both of them. The circuit does not suit the characteristics of both the Ferrari and the Red Bull, and I'm not sure that the problems they've got are the ones that can be solved overnight. Just lastly, I'd say that Raikkonen stopped at the end of FP2 with a MGUK failure, and it looks like it could be the same for Vettel as well, so that'd be quite interesting to see how the Ferrari bounced back from that, and indeed what the problem was with Vettel. But 144.223, Lewis Hamilton topped that session. Imperious form from Mercedes on Friday. Can they carry that through into Saturday and lock out the front row? Judging by what's happened on today, throughout FP1 and FP2, you would not be wrong to bet on Mercedes locking out the front row. I'll be back tomorrow for the Saturday review on YouTube, and then back on Tuesday on Diary of Mercedes Fan to talk about everything that happened in what is shaping up to be an absolutely fantastic 2016 European Grand Prix.